The fork froze halfway to my mouth when his mother said, "So, how much do you actually make?" The table went quiet. Not polite, quiet. The kind where everyone is waiting to see you bleed. I smiled, because that question was the reason I was sitting there. My name is Natalie Brooks, and for almost a year, my fiancé thought I was barely getting by. He believed I earned just enough to cover rent, groceries, and the occasional coffee. What he didn't know, what I never corrected, was that I make $25,000 a month. I didn't hide it out of shame. I hid it to see who people really were. I met Jacob on a random Tuesday in Denver. He was funny, in a quiet way. Observant. He noticed small things, like how I always stirred my coffee before tasting it. When he asked what I did, I said, "I work in tech." He nodded and said, "Oh, support side." I hesitated. Just a beat. "Yeah," I said. "Something like that." That was it. No lie. Just silence. Jacob filled in the rest himself. And I let him. Not because I was playing games, but because the woman who raised me taught me something I never forgot. My aunt, who everyone assumed was just a retired school clerk, left behind a business empire when she passed. No one saw it coming. Not even me. She once told me, "People show their real face when they think you don't matter." So when Jacob invited me to dinner with his family, formal, important, they're excited to meet you, I decided not to dress up my life. I wore a simple dress, no jewelry worth mentioning, drove my old car. The moment I stepped into their dining room, I felt it. His mother, Linda, smiled without warmth. His sister, Brooke, glanced at my shoes and then at each other like they'd already agreed on something. Jacob squeezed my hand, too lightly. Dinner started politely enough. Small talk. Wine glasses clinking. Then came the comments. "So, Natalie," Brooke said, swirling her drink, "Jacob mentioned you help with tech things. Is that like scheduling?" "I work with systems," I replied. Linda nodded. "Every company needs support people." Jacob stared at his plate. At one point, his mother laughed and said, "Well, not everyone is meant for ambition." I smiled. My stomach tightened. Later, his ex's name came up, Rachel, casually, deliberately. "She always understood ambition," Linda said. "She fit right in," Brooke added. I nodded politely. Then I excused myself to use the restroom. I wasn't looking for trouble, but trouble found me anyway. I heard voices from the study. Brooke said, "She's temporary, you know that, right?" Linda answered, "She'll do until everything's finalized." "Does she know about Rachel?" Linda laughed softly. "She doesn't need to." My hands went cold. "She's harmless," Brooke said. "Honestly, kind of convenient. He stays distracted." That word hit hard. Distracted. I stood there, listening as they talked about me like a placeholder, like a pause button. That's when I understood something important. This wasn't about money. It was about control. When Jacob proposed later that night, ring shaking slightly in his hand, I said yes. Not because I believed him. Because I needed time. The weeks after were revealing. Jacob became careful, guarded. His phone buzzed more often. Rachel's name flashed once, twice. When I asked, he said, "She's just checking in." I nodded. One evening, I followed him. Not angrily, calmly. I saw them together. Close. Familiar. I took one photo. Just one. Then I went home and started making calls. People remembered my aunt's name. They remembered what integrity looked like. And suddenly, pieces started clicking together. The engagement party was exactly what Linda wanted. Elegant, loud, strategic. People who mattered were there. Jacob stood beside me, smiling like nothing was wrong. His mother watched the room like a chessboard. When I walked in wearing the real version of myself, the shift was immediate. Whispers started before I even reached the bar. Brooke stared. Linda blinked too many times. Jacob leaned in and whispered, "What's going on?" I said quietly, "Just being honest tonight." When they handed me the microphone, I didn't hesitate. "I want to thank this family," I said, steady, "for teaching me something important." The room stilled. "I let people assume I was small," I continued, "because when people think you don't matter, they tell the truth." I talked about the dinner, the comments, the conversation I overheard. Gasps spread like ripples. Jacob grabbed my arm. "Natalie." I pulled free. "I also learned something else," I said. Jacob wasn't confused. He was compliant. I held up my phone. One image. Enough. Silence. Linda stood up. "This is inappropriate." "No," I said. "This is overdue." I removed the ring and placed it on the podium. "I won't marry someone who treats honesty like a strategy." Then I added the final truth. "I make $25,000 a month. I never lied. I just never corrected anyone who assumed I was less." I stepped away. No shouting. No drama. Just truth. A week later, Jacob texted. I never replied. The family's business partners quietly stepped back. People talk when masks fall. I went back to my life. The one I built honestly. And I slept peacefully.